What was ruined because not enough people were doing it? A lot of online games. Some games do not work without a large community. Worlds Adrift especially. It had hundreds of beautiful sky islands to explore, an intuitive airship building and crafting system, a very well-made grapple swinging system that made you feel like Spider-Man when you did it right, online co-op or PvP that allowed for massive airship battles with crew members. It was my favorite MMO, but it was taken down in early access because the devs ran out of money to develop it and moved on to another project. Internet privacy. LDWay, we're infecting your computer with tracking cookies. Now, here's an annoying banner you have to click saying you are okay with tracking cookies. You must accept this to continue, on every fucking site. Roller skating. So many rinks have closed in the past 10-20 years with the decrease in popularity. Frown. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thank you all for teaching me a bit more about the history of a sport I've always loved. D. Paintball. Airsoft was just sort of a last gasp before those type of sports just died. Yes, people still play, but the interest just isn't there, and I believe people just grow out of it. Politics. A vast majority of people like to stay away from politics, which led to a very selective group of people who had similar mindset to make rules and regulations for the country. The nepotism in the political parties is shocking. Many countries would have better living conditions, and people would be living peacefully if many people were participating in politics. Boycotting terrible companies. Companies that offer better alternatives can't thrive because they can't keep up with the competition because people keep supporting the competition. Then the competition has no initiative to do better because they're making money anyway. Editor's general response to the comments. It is true that individuals only have limited buying power and options when it comes to choosing what company to support. There are for sure some, Nestle, that are pretty much unavoidable, but I do think there are some that can be. I realize it should be more like not enough people in power are pushing for regulations making it easier for people to boycott terrible companies. Dancing at my wedding. It was me, my mom and the kids in the family. No one else danced except for my first dance with my husband. He gets a free pass because of his messed up back, but the other assholes, I gave them alcohol and asked for one thing: dancing. Trains and transit in America. If enough people don't ride a train or bus, then it won't have enough fund for the continuation of its operation, which in turn will make it shut down service completely. So when the cars in the suburbs rose in popularity well into the 50s, 60s, and 70s, a lot of people got and used cars or moved to places which required the use of a car to get anywhere. All of this caused mostly everyone to abandon train and transit riding, which made many railroads go out of business or cease their passenger operations. Once the growth of passenger rail halted and declined, it was hard to get any people in power to fund any transit project due to the overwhelming majority wanting to take cars and use the new highways instead of public transport. Now all we have today is the slow, expensive, and largely inconvenient railway Amtrak. Those baby on board signs. Originally they were removable and you would only display it if there was an actual baby in its seat. The intention was that if you were in a car crash and your infant flew out of the car, paramedics knew to look for a kid missing from its seat. People got lazy about removing it and it somehow turned into "there's a kid in my car so drive carefully around me" stickers. Letterboxing as a hobby. Also, if it counts, Santa Clarita Diet. Still pretty bummed about that being cancelled, but I guess not enough people were watching, so. LG's mobile division. Nobody was buying their products, which were innovative and solid. Everyone focused too much attention on Apple and Samsung. We will forever be stuck with rectangle slab form factor. Fun and unique phones will now be a thing of the past. Farewell LG. The quality of mainstream video games has gone down the toilet because people refuse to stop buying microtransactions and blindly pre-ordering games that a toddler can tell are going to be terrible. Buying locally. From small business. Edit. I'm surprised and saddened about the amount of people who can't and or won't shop local, especially if it is due to quality of service. You'd expect business owners to have a good customer service standard in order to survive, which could also be a factor in why they aren't. Thanks for the perspective. Shortwave radio. It used to be a great place for news, culture, languages, and music. Accessible to anyone, anywhere. With a radio, it was a thrill to search and capture stations you had never discovered before. Now all you literally hear is just a handful of religious cults and right-wing nutjobs, and Radio Havana, of course, which will never give up. Morality. Anonymity on the internet brought out the worst in people. They didn't change. It just helped them become who they truly were. Some douchebag behind a screen. Learn to be kind. I've commented before that the internet didn't change people. People changed the internet. We always thought it would empower everyone to have a voice, but those were the early, naive days. As it turned out, we underestimated the extent to which proud ignorance, self-righteousness, historical, scientific illiteracy, and the unwarranted confidence of perpetually adolescent brains would form a hurricane of perpetual contempt. Bowling. There are still bowling alleys, but a lot of them went out of business and the ones left are often a bit run down. I feel like a lot of young people lost interest in the 2000s. Me? And those same people are now growing up and realizing how fun and pleasant it is to get a pitcher and some chili cheese fries and go laser bowling on a Friday night with friends. Also me. After all this COVID stuff is over, let's revive bowling alleys. Android ROMs. People bitch about Apple and Google's duopoly all the time, but they don't even bother to use Google Free ROM. Those ROMs can't get bigger or release faster to a wider audience because not enough people use it. Aggressive inline skating. Ruined in the sense that it wasn't culturally embraced much despite being very expressive and dangerous and fun. Not many people know about what it really is like and have missed out on it. Many of the biggest online stores and the companies that were making apparel and equipment ceased to exist after the mid-00s. I was a little bothered that they took it out of the X Games. There weren't any other sports at the time where people were doing triple backflips. This is what it really is. Esperanto could have become a true international language. It really took off in the past, actually Irk, but Hitler thought it was a Judeo-Bolshevist look-it-up law. Plot and Stalin apparently studied it and it was allowed to flourish until he did a 180 on that and repressions came. Oh, and Franco repressed people using it in Spain too. We all could have had a chance to study the easy and fun Esperanto instead of convoluted English as our second language if it wasn't for some totalitarian pricks believing that a language could somehow harm them. Humanity. Fewer and fewer people seem to be able to empathize and see another point of view, to be kind and thoughtful to another even if you don't agree with their opinion, lifestyle, or a position in life, and humanity is literally getting ruined because of it. The McDLT, the hot side stays hot and the cold side stays cold. Yeah, McDonald's. It's not like I'm going to carry your crappy burger around for an hour so I can find some place to savor it. I'm gonna eat it as fast as possible and then hate myself for a little while. Jazz became thought of as a niche music for science teachers and the mentally ill, a rich genre though with all kinds of colors and moods. I honestly don't think its decline in pop culture relevance is a huge issue for the listener base. All art form mirrors wax and wane, but there is still an amazing amount of awesome jazz artists putting out innovative music today. Vijay Iyer, Kamasi Washington, Brian Blade, To name a few, the listener base may be small comparatively, but it is extremely supportive and passionate. Wearing capes and cloaks. One people, these were historically practical piece of clothing even up till WW2 it was used, from shielding air or fire, from keeping you warm, to being a raincoat, from letting others know your social status, and even as a sunscreen and more. Let's make wearing cloaks and capes popular again, haha. I might get a lot of shit for this opinion, but the Reddit versus Wall Street thing, if we all had held, we could have thirsted the shit out of the right people. Don't get me wrong, they got hurt and I am extremely proud of all who were involved, but one is allowed to dream of a world where they hurt for a little bit longer. Art. Public studios are closing everywhere and national subsidies are being quietly closed, probably because there's not enough free time and extra money to buy supplies and studio time, but it's still sad. Art makes life bearable. It isn't a luxury. Like our capacity for understanding, and our experience of love, it is a vitally important part of life. Gillian Pedersen Cragg, art quotes. A 10 a.m. class instead of an 8 a.m., since not enough people signed up for the 10 a.m. class, they cancelled it. Now I take the 8 a.m. class, wondering if it's worth the degree. Tuesday and Thursday at 7:55 when my alarm goes off. Motions to America's pandemic response. Europe is a shit show in rolling out the vaccination and going for a round 2. Sweden was an utter shit show all around. Just because America makes the news all the time, those mean it is worse than the rest of the world. Europeans especially like to pretend that their farts smell like roses, all the while things are not so good behind the scenes. Watching Arrested Development. One of the best TV comedies ever, but it was way ahead of its time and didn't have enough viewers to get more than 3 seasons. After it gained a cult following on Netflix, they tried to make a couple new seasons, but it just wasn't the same. My favorite hair product. It was called I Hate My Hair the Day It's Washed and was by Lee Stafford. You just sprayed it in before drying your hair and voila, no frizz. Now, I know there are a lot of products out there that are also supposed to do this, but this one just worked perfectly. My thick, frizzy, woolly hair loved it, but apparently it wasn't a popular product and it was removed from the range. This was a few years ago now, but I've still not found a decent replacement. Voting for the Hearing Act. Like no joke, myself a CCW holder, can walk into any gun store in my state, slap my CCW and cash card down and walk out in less than 15 minutes with any non-NFA item that needs a NICS check. I'm now 6 months and over 3K into waiting for my 2 suppressors because they need a tax stamp for WTF. Reason, if more people had gone for the Hearing Act, I could be having more fun at the range and testing myself to see how well I can reload my hunting loads to be quiet so the deer don't get spooked if someone using my gun misses, or if I miss, lol. Dreams on the PS4, this amazing tool to create and play games, art, music and animated movies has a very small dedicated community of creators, mainly due to poor marketing. I never dreamed I could create the things I've made so easily using this awesome game. The Earth, cause not enough people gave any kind of fucks whatsoever about it. I know this really doesn't fit the formula of the post, but I just read that the carbon dioxide levels hit a new high. Yay humans. I'm 13 but I'm about to sound super old RN, but going outside without your phone or anything and just enjoying the sounds of nature. I do this a lot, and when I see other people they are listening to music or just on their phone, there is nothing wrong with it, but I think some people are too dependent on their phones. Again, I am 13. I sound like a 50-year-old, but trust me, I'm 13. Google Plus was supposed to be the new Facebook, You can chat with 10 friends at a time. Wait, at? ? But here's the catch. At this particular time, you had to be invited. Those who received invites would make a post on Facebook along the lines of, "Damn, guys, Google Plus is freaking awesome. Definitely a hell of a lot better than Facebook. Won't be using this shit anymore." By the time Google Plus was open to the public, the novelty had worn off already and people just went back to Facebook and forgot all about it, as if the whole thing had never happened. Cut to today, Google Plus is really just a place to list your business and have angry one-star reviews written by morons. A 90% effective vaccine for Lyme disease. Not enough people got vaccinated against the incurable disease that causes debilitating lifelong problems after anti-vaccine mania grabbed headlines. It was pulled from the market. A lot of clinical trials fail because not enough people sign up for them, but unfortunately the criteria for clinical trials is often quite exclusionary to begin with, and of course there's the risk of getting a placebo, which would no doubt deter people who are looking for actual treatment. Shutting the fuck up at concerts. I used to watch them like "Yo, that's so cool" non-edited voices, and chilling with friends. Then I went to one and all you hear, "Oh my god, let's all sing 3 2 1 yay, your riffs," and the artist just sit there and do nothing like, "Emily, I don't want to hear you and your friends, I want to hear the artist." The 1987 NFL players' strike. For context, since I can hear some of you scoffing already, please remember that an athlete's career is often quite short. Average NFL career is 3 years, and dangerous, with a strong risk of extended health issues lasting for decades after their careers are over, and that it's exceptionally rare for an athlete to be able to pull endorsement deals for decades like your Blue Moon Michael Jordans out there. To consider how rare that is, please note that I chose an example from an entirely different sport. So yes, there absolutely is reason for athletes pulling $3 million salaries down to go on strike. Those 3 years of $3 million have to cover them for the rest of their lives, and in 1987, the average player salary wasn't $3 million, it was $198,000. If you adjust for inflation, that was less than $500,000 in today's money. A person who makes $1.5 million over the whole course of their career is not cruising down easy street, particularly if they have medical bills piling up. The strike was ultimately successful in the long run in bringing attention to how crappy the players were being treated, but because of dirty tricks like divide and conquer, the owners were able to undermine the strike at the time. The fallout from the failure of the strike also led to a prolonging of the league's denial of the prolonged dangers of things like head trauma for decades to come. Our high school. I live in a small town and our high school wouldn't survive without students from other parts of the country. This leads to them being allowed to do as they please without any real consequences. The Netflix series Sense8, phenomenal character writing and development, humanistic storyline, amazing and gorgeous settings, fantastic direction and production value, really cool sci-fi concept, very break the mold. Netflix sunk money into it because it was just straight up good. It wasn't marketed like at all, and they cancelled it after 2 seasons. The smaller but incredibly loyal fan base gave them so much hell they made a 2-hour series wrap-up that forced the incredibly intricate and nuanced storyline to a conclusion. I refuse to watch it. I'd rather have headcanon than a rushed and forced finalization. Opting to ban the box when comes to employment. Here in Massachusetts, we have system like that for who committed minor and/or non-violent crimes. For some, finding a job with a criminal record isn't easy. Oftentimes, you have to pay to get your record sealed. One of my brothers was asked about a charge involving fight with the police, which was dismissed after it was proven he was the victim when that cop punched him. My brother was non-violently defusing a fight that our sister and random stranger at a bar. My brother didn't use physical violence against cop and was walking away as ordered. Even the barkeeper sided with us. He was able to settle the matter, and the cop got scolded by the judge. I almost found myself on the wrong side of the law for contempt of court when I was chatting with the bailiff on an unrelated matter. The bailiff was asking if I had some bootleg films, which I explained that he'll have to go elsewhere for that fix. Still, those were minors, and under Massachusetts law, employers are banned from asking that as it didn't cause bodily harm. If the crime was non-violent or dismissed, employers would get in trouble to denying a person a job under law. Thus, the box question is illegal in Massachusetts. This also helps with the economy as it meant more people off the street. And less crimes. Wearing masks. Why couldn't the US make it a fun thing instead of behaving like a big baby, protesting over it? Stupid Americans. I enjoy my masks. I can't believe I let random people breathe on me in the past. I have a collection of pretty masks and I'm not giving them up.